Last Days of Freedom, a short story by Lynette Sloan. An early summer's day, a clear blue sky, the excitement of meeting a friend whom I hadn't seen since university. These had all been good reasons to drive into Chester. I was already a little late, so I quickened my pace as I picked my way through the bustling streets. Somewhere up ahead, a busker was singing and playing a guitar. She sounded pretty good. I checked my watch. Jan would already be at the coffee house. She would be on time, unless she'd changed a lot in the last 5 years. I smiled as I recalled our previous evening's telephone conversation. Jan had joked about my timekeeping and how she'd always nagged me to clear up after myself when we shared student accommodation. Still the same old Jan. I wondered how she'd react when she saw my engagement ring. Until I'd met Ben, I'd always insisted I would never get married. I slipped off my denim jacket. Why didn't I leave it in the car? A man walked into me, knocking my shoulder bag onto the paving slabs. He looked down at my belongings spilled along the pavement. "Sorry, in a dreadful hurry." A second later, he had disappeared into the crowd. Typical. I grabbed my makeup, hairbrush and mobile off the ground, threw them back into my bag and slung it back over my shoulder. I sighed and continued walking towards the cafe. If I hadn't been in such a hurry, I would have stopped to admire the grand black and white mid-19th century buildings. The city was full of wonderful architecture. The singing and guitar playing were becoming louder. I was impressed. The musician really was quite good, and her voice seemed somehow familiar. I turned into Northgate Street and checked my watch again. I was already 10 minutes late. A wave of nausea swept over me. I swallowed and tried to shake it off. I'd been fighting this all morning and didn't want to miss the chance to see Jan. She would only be in the city for a few hours, then would return to the Midlands to begin her dream job. I pictured her sitting in the cathedral coffee shop, leafing through a magazine, shaking her head and muttering, "I knew she'd be late." I dodged a group of teenagers and moved through the shoppers. Ahead, less than 20 metres away, a large crowd stood listening to the singer. I loved hearing the varied artists performing in the streets, but today the crowds were a nuisance. I was in a hurry. I pressed through the people and stood on a paved pedestrian area. The singer had finished her song and was starting another. Impossible! That was one of my songs, the new one. I'd only written it the night before. It hadn't been published. None of them had. I wrote for fun, just for me and my friends. A woman in a short dress grabbed her toddler and moved away, allowing me a glimpse of the singer's light brown hair. She dressed like I usually did. Jeans, long tie-dye t-shirt, embroidered cotton jacket, sandals, a bit of a hippie. I was beginning to like her, but still wondered how she could be singing my song. I was at the front of the crowd now. Still standing side on to me, the woman said, "Thank you for listening. I wrote that song over 20 years ago." She gestured to the 2 young men standing nearby. "That was the week before I found out I was expecting the twins. My last days of freedom." The crowd laughed. She turned and looked directly at me, and somehow I read in her eyes that she knew who I was. A wave of panic hit my stomach as I realised I was looking into my own eyes, the eyes of a much older version of myself. Instinctively, I placed a hand on my stomach. I knew who those twins were and why I'd been feeling sick this morning.